and welcome to healthyhouseplants.com, where we teach you all about gardening in the great indoors. If you'd like to support our show, please use our Amazon affiliate link below. Today we're going to talk about the 3 types of Monstera Deliciosa roots. So I'm going to clue you in a little bit on the different types of roots so you understand them when you're growing your plant, because some people get a little confused, especially about the aerial roots. I'm going to start by talking about the lateral subterranean roots. The lateral subterranean root is the root that most people are familiar with because that is the root that is in the soil down below ground. These are the roots that are anchor the plant into the soil. They uptake nutrients from the soil. They absorb available water from the soil. Almost all plants, except for air plants, Tilangias, which I have a video on, have these roots. The term lateral comes from the fact that they grow laterally off the primary root that extends from the stem. So you've got the roots down below, and then they grow laterally from that main root that goes down first, and then they grow laterally from that. And you'll notice that when you pull up a plant to repot it, be it a Monstera or any other type of plant, that there's a bunch of roots in the middle and there's roots growing out of the side as well of that main clump of roots. So the next type of root is the one that people get a little bit confused about, concerned about as well. That is the aerial root. These are the roots that grow above ground. So these are all these guys here that you see. And this is on a Monstera that is currently being revitalized here. And these, as you can see, and if you grow Monstera, you've probably seen these growing on your Monstera if you have one that's of any size. Real young ones, you won't see them for a while, but the more mature ones, you'll see a lot of these aerial roots, and it can get so crazy where there's so many that there's a big clumps lying on the floor. So these aerial roots, as mentioned, they develop above ground. They tend to provide support for vining plants like the Monsteras, and when they're growing in their native habitat in the jungles and up into trees. So these guys are used by the plant to attach themselves, wind themselves up into the trees. Their native habitat is moist tropical rainforests, and in these natural habitats, these woody, and they're basically epiphytic vines, reach up to 60 feet tall and produce, when they are mature, delicious edible fruit that takes over a year to ripen. And I do have a video on one that did ripen, and I was sampling it, so I'll link that as well. It was a fun video I did a few years ago. So as mentioned, these aerial roots are used to basically like a trellising system. They climb, and they use the trees they're climbing on as the trellis, but they're using these aerial roots to climb, to attach themselves. And this is how the Monsteras get way up into the trees, and they're doing that because they are going up to get more light, because the further up they go, the more light they will get. So these aerial roots tend to grow out of the plant nodes, so they're nodes where you can get new growth. And you can see here, got one right here that you can see is a brand new one growing. If I can get, they do make quite a tangled little web here. See if I can go in a little bit so you can get a closer view here without, okay, so see here, this is a new one coming out. And it's coming right here and under the node. A lot of times when you are going to cut, so here's the node here, the bump here, and here's the aerial root right just a little bit underneath it, or actually on top of it, but you would cut underneath it. And you generally want to keep those nodes when you are propagating a Monstera. I did that with this one that's in water here. And I'll show you. Actually, I don't think that's too close. There we go. So so I can show you this one growing in water. So you can easily propagate them in water. And this one, when I propagated it, I left this aerial root on. So a lot of times, because it's the way they naturally grow, it's a good idea to leave them on if possible. Although, as mentioned, they can get a little crazy, and here's the root on that guy too. So I didn't show you here, but there's the aerial roots coming out from there. All these vines here getting in the way. So anyway, they do get a little crazy, so it is possible to prune them back. I'm going to do a video on how to do that and whether you really want to do that. But suffice it to say that you can prune them back some, especially if there's just so many, maybe you're tripping. I've had some where I was tripping on them, literally. So I had to like, okay, this is way too much here. And indoors, they're not growing up into trees, generally speaking, although you can put in a moss pole, which I have another video I'm going to be doing real soon here on using a moss pole, which helps them. It simulates the same sort of growing condition they would have in the jungle. So they do reach several feet in length, very long, several feet in length as they keep growing. And as mentioned, I like to, when possible, let plants grow the way they naturally grow, because then they do the best. So keeping in mind that aerial roots are there to, their purpose not only to climb, but also is to absorb moisture. And I hadn't mentioned that yet, which is real critical here. They absorb moisture as they climb into the trees. That's why they're epiphytic. One of their functions as epiphytic plants is to absorb moisture from the air. And nutrients from the air. So that's another reason for these aerial roots. So if you cut them all off, you are stopping the plant from doing what it naturally does, which is absorbing moisture from the air, right? And not as much nutrients from your air, but they will absorb some too that get airborne as well. So keeping that in mind in terms of why am I keeping them? The aerial roots tend to come in a variety of colors. They green, white, brown. A lot of times it's brown. Now, if your aerial roots, if in your very dry climate and your aerial roots do tend to dry out, that's going to happen sometimes. So it's not the end of the world. It just shows that your humidity is pretty low. You can mist them to keep them doing okay. They will also absorb moisture from the soil when you water the plant, and Monsteras do like to get a good drink quite often, so the soil tends to be on the wet side with them, or it should be, and I do have a care video on them as well. So as mentioned, keeping that in mind in terms of should I keep them, should I not keep them, that sort of thing. They are doing a function, they are serving a function. If you do put in a moss pole as well, you can use that. They can be wound around the moss pole, and they will do that themselves as well. And if you want to get one really big, if you have a nice big, say you have a greenhouse or something, a conservatory, something with a lot of light, and you want to grow a really big Monstera, then you would definitely want to keep these guys on and put a big moss pole in and something for it to climb in, and let it climb up and up and up, and it will do very well doing that as well. So that's something to keep in mind, something to aspire to. And you can do that and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to have a conservatory. You could do that in a well-lit room as well. So that is something that you can definitely do. These are really beautiful plants. They are so tropical, which I love, and they just really give a home a really nice greenery effect. And of course, and you do get the split leaves on them, and that's also another bonus. Now, I did mention that there are 3 types of roots, and the last type of root is called the Ariel Subterranean root. And this is a combination of the previous 2. These roots begin as Ariel roots. They start above ground and they grow into the soil. The purpose of these roots varies, but they seem to contribute to supporting the Monstera as it grows. Okay, so for instance, I do have one here that it is attached here, and then it has grown. It did grow into the soil at this, trying to show you here, at this point, which I'm not doing a good job of. Okay, it is growing right in here, growing in there. And it has attached itself in there. So that is possibly, rather than being get a close up here for you. So right here, it's grown in, it is definitely down in the soil, and it is attached out here, and it's attached to a stem over here. So it made like a U shape and then went into the soil. So that being said, this is likely one of those aerial subterranean roots. Now, one thing to keep in mind about it is that the aerial roots are not going to become subterranean. The true aerial roots won't. And from what I've seen growing the Monsteras, there aren't a lot of aerial subterranean roots. It was actually, when I saw that, and I thought, oh, that's what they're. I had read about them a lot, and I'd seen it before. But then I thought, oh, okay, this is a good opportunity to do a video because I have all 3 roots on the same plant. So that's something to keep in mind. You're not going to see it as much. You're going to see more. You're going to see aerial roots coming out of the stems themselves and flowing onto the ground. And then, of course, you'll see the subterranean roots when you go and you repot. And then these aerial subterranean roots every once in a while as well. So there you have it, the 3 types of Monstera roots, so you can understand what's going on and why the heck you have all these long brown, sometimes gray, a lot of times brown. There are some green ones too, and I've seen a few white, but mostly gray or brown aerial roots. And I know years ago when I started growing these, I thought, what in the heck is all this and what's happening and what do I do with this? So now you know. And as mentioned, I'm going to be doing a video on can you cut them, should you cut them, how do you cut them, etc. Thank you for stopping by today. Please leave any comments about any indoor gardening tutorials you'd like to see. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. And please check the bell if you'd like to be notified when new videos are released.